I never expected a normal school day to become the moment everything flipped upside down. Parent-teacher conferences were always a mess. The halls packed with tired parents, jittery students, and teachers with caffeine in one hand and appointment sheets in the other. The buzz was deafening, overlapping conversations, shoes squeaking on tile, and the intercom crackling updates no one really heard. I had just finished helping my mom, Principal Davis, carry some paperwork to the social studies wing and was heading back to her office to wait. That's when it happened. I wasn't in any kind of rush, just weaving through the crowd with my hoodie draped over my backpack and a folder clutched to my side. I murmured, "Excuse me," like a dozen times, squeezing past knots of parents and kids huddled outside classrooms. I was focused, careful. I always am. I'm not the kind of kid who causes trouble. My teachers know that. My classmates know that. Apparently, Karen didn't. She was standing near the admin wing, stiff as a board, arms crossed, purse clenched so tightly it looked like a weapon. She had this pastel cardigan around her shoulders like she thought she was royalty, and she was muttering under her breath about how kids these days have no manners. And this place is chaos. I didn't even look at her as I passed. Just veered slightly to avoid the cluster of people blocking the hallway. I guess the edge of my backpack brushed her purse. That's all it took. "Watch it!" she screeched. The entire hallway froze. Conversations died. Heads turned. I did too, confused, mouth halfway open to say, "I don't know. Sorry?" Or, "Are you okay?" Or maybe just nothing. But I didn't get the chance. Before I could react, her hand came flying. The slap cracked across my face so hard and fast it made my ears ring. My whole head jerked to the side, and my folder slipped from my fingers, pages spilling across the floor like startled birds. The sting wasn't what got me, it was the shock. The sheer, unfiltered embarrassment of being hit in front of everyone. My cheeks burned, and not just from her hand. Gasps echoed from the crowd. Phones came out. Cameras rolled. Karen was shaking, breathing heavy like she just fought off a wild animal. Her finger jabbed toward me. "This is exactly what I mean. No respect. These kids think they can just shove people around like they own the place." I stood there frozen. I couldn't speak, couldn't even blink. My skin felt like it didn't belong to me. Then, the crowd parted behind her. And my mom stepped into view. Her heels clicked steadily against the floor as she walked forward, calm and composed, but her eyes told a different story. They weren't the eyes of a principal addressing a hallway incident. They were the eyes of a mother who had just watched someone slap her child. Karen, still oblivious, turned toward her and huffed. "Finally! Someone in charge. Are you going to do something about this little delinquent?" My mom didn't even blink. She stepped in front of me and rested her hand gently on my shoulder. "That delinquent," she said, her voice cool but razor-sharp, "is my son." Karen's expression faltered for the first time. Her eyes widened. "Wait, what? I didn't. He bumped into me. I was startled. Self-defense." Voices around us rose all at once. A teacher. A group of seniors. A parent. All saying the same thing, that I hadn't done anything wrong. That she had slapped me without warning or reason. Mom raised one hand, silencing them all. Then she looked Karen dead in the eyes. "You just assaulted a student in my school. My student. My child." Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "You're just protecting your kid." "I'm protecting all my students," my mom said. "And security is already on their way." Right on cue, 2 guards appeared down the hall. Karen's voice rose again, but this time it was shaky. "This is insane. I didn't mean to hurt him." "You'll have a chance to explain that," Mom said. "To the school board. And the authorities. But for now, you're done here." As security gently flanked Karen, leading her away, I just stood there. My cheeks still burning, my hands shaking. But I wasn't alone. Not anymore. The moment the office door clicked shut behind us, The noise of the hallway faded into nothing. Inside, everything was still. Familiar. The scent of lemon polish and faint lavender air freshener floated in the air, the kind my mom always kept in her office. Usually it calmed me. That day, it didn't touch the storm in my chest. I sat on the edge of the black leather couch, my fingers twitching against the manila folder that had somehow survived the chaos. My mom, no, Principal Davis, paced behind her desk. Her heels made that soft, rhythmic tapping I usually found comforting. Now it just reminded me of how quiet the room had gotten. Too quiet. She hadn't said much since we left the hall. Just placed her hand on my shoulder and walked me away. Calm. Focused. But I knew that underneath, something was boiling. Because I'd seen it in her eyes, just for a second, the moment Karen's hand met my cheek. Finally, she stopped pacing and knelt down in front of me, her hands gently resting on my knees. "Elijah, look at me," she said. Her voice was soft, but tight. Like she was holding something back, fury, maybe. Or fear. I lifted my eyes. She looked like she did when I was little and scraped my knee, like when she used to kiss my forehead and promise everything would be okay. That was the part of her I saw now, not the principal, but my mom. "Are you okay?" I nodded, but it felt like a lie. She wasn't buying it either. "Tell me the truth." "It didn't hurt that bad," I muttered. But even as I said it, my voice trembled. I hated that. The sting had already faded from my cheek, but the memory of everyone watching, the gasps, the phones, the judgment, it was still clinging to me like static. She stood up slowly, brushing invisible wrinkles from her blazer. "There's already footage going around," she said, voice measured. "Teachers saw it. Security cams caught everything. You didn't do anything wrong, Elijah. I need you to believe that." I didn't answer, just stared at the folder in my lap. The one I was supposed to drop off before Karen slapped it, and me, straight out of my hands. Outside, the school's rhythm was trying to resume. People whispering. Phones buzzing. Teachers pretending nothing had happened. But inside this office, it was like time had stopped. Karen, meanwhile, was sitting in the front office's waiting room. I heard someone say she demanded to call her husband, screamed about legal action, even claimed she was the one being mistreated. The receptionist, a pro at handling drama, just kept smiling and nodding while logging every word for the report. Back in the office, my mom was typing furiously, her fingers flying across the keyboard. I sat silently, scrolling through texts on my phone. A few people had already messaged me. Some saying, "Are you okay?" Others trying to crack jokes, lighten the mood. Only one message made me smile, even just a little. It was from Isla, my lab partner and probably the only person in school who could make me laugh even on days like this. She'd written, "You handled that like a boss. Don't let her get in your head." That one helped. Mom glanced at me. "We're filing this officially, as assault by a non-staff adult on school property. Karen may face charges. We're not letting this slide." "She'll try to twist it," I said. My voice came out bitter, something I wasn't used to hearing from myself. "Say I provoked her or ran into her on purpose." "She can try," Mom said. "But the facts don't bend to her entitlement." "Not this time." There was a knock. The door opened, and Vice Principal Carver stepped in. We moved Karen to the counselor's office. She was yelling at the front desk. Someone started recording her ranting again. "Figured we'd better get her out of sight." My mom gave a short nod. "Good call," he continued. "Security's already downloading the hallway cam footage. Ms. Watkins from English submitted a full written statement. She saw the whole thing. Says Elijah barely touched Karen's bag before she slapped him." I watched my mom's jaw tighten. "Perfect. We'll get more statements. I'll call the legal team after lunch." Carver nodded at me, a small gesture of respect. "You okay, Elijah?" I nodded once. He left. Then Mom looked back at me. "You can go home if you want." "No pressure." I hesitated. I didn't want to feel like I was running. I think I'll stay. At least until lunch. Just want to feel normal. She smiled. And for a moment, the weight in the room lifted. I stood, adjusted my backpack. As I opened the door, I paused. Thanks, Mom. She blinked, surprised. I never call her that during school. It's always Principal Davis here. But today, she had been more than just the principal. She smiled softly. Always. By the time I made it to the cafeteria, the buzz had already started again. Students huddled around phones, comparing angles of the slap like it was some kind of sports replay. The videos were already edited with captions, zoom-ins, and dramatic music. Some of it made me want to disappear. Others made me want to scream. But I didn't do either. I just grabbed a tray and sat with my usual group near the back. No one said much, and honestly, I appreciated that. Isla was next to me, chewing through a granola bar like it was any other day. Marcus kept cracking bad jokes, none of them landing, but he didn't stop. And Rachel slid her fruit cup across the table toward me without a word. It wasn't much. But it was everything. They didn't ask how I was. They didn't need to. Just sitting with them, not needing to explain myself, that was its own kind of relief. Meanwhile, Karen was still on campus, unbelievably, now in the counselor's office. According to one of the aides, she was throwing around legal threats, demanding to call the school board, and spinning a story about being physically threatened by me. That I had lunged at her. That my mom was covering for me. None of it made sense. But it didn't have to. People like Karen didn't care about sense. They cared about control. Mr. Hayes, the poor counselor who got stuck with her, had given up trying to reason with her. Instead, he was quietly noting timestamps and collecting every word she said. For the report. Because yes, she was being documented. Back in the front office, my mom was already deep into damage control. A conference call had been set up with the school board liaison, the district legal advisor, and even someone from the local police department. Mom walked them through everything. Calm. Precise. Every detail laid out like pieces on a chessboard. The legal advisor didn't even try to hide how serious things had gotten. Based on preliminary review, he said, Karen Harrington's actions qualify as misdemeanor assault on a minor. He also mentioned criminal trespass if she refused to leave. He recommended filing a restraining order barring her from district property. And yes, they were forwarding everything to law enforcement. Mom nodded like she'd already planned for every step. Because she had. That's what people don't always see, what it takes to stay calm when you're furious. What it takes to carry yourself like steel wrapped in skin. I've seen my mom handle angry parents, hostile meetings, budget fights, even internal district chaos. But this was personal. And she still didn't flinch. By late afternoon, Officer Ray from campus security finally entered the counselor's office to escort Karen to Principal Davis's office. She still looked smug, like she thought she was finally going to get a fair hearing. She didn't realize she was walking straight into the final phase. I wasn't there, I'd heard everything secondhand, but I know how my mom operates. I can picture the room exactly, her behind her desk, Carver to one side, Officer Ray behind Karen. Karen walked in, not even trying to hide her attitude. I'd like to make a formal complaint, she said, rifling through her purse for some crumpled notepad. Your son assaulted me. I've been treated like a criminal all day. And my mom? She didn't blink. She didn't shout. She just said, Ms. Harrington, multiple witnesses have provided statements. Surveillance footage confirms your account is inconsistent with what actually happened. Karen's face froze mid-sentence. You struck a student, unprovoked, in the hallway. You disrupted school operations. Intimidated staff. Ignored multiple directives. As of now, you are banned from all district property pending further legal action. Karen exploded. This is outrageous. You're just covering for your son. That's when Officer Ray stepped forward. Ma'am, you're being asked to leave. If you don't, we'll be forced to call local authorities and file trespass charges. That cornered animal look must have hit her then. But it didn't change anything. She smoothed her cardigan, lifted her chin like she still had dignity, and hissed, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." And my mom? She didn't even look up. She just started typing the official report, calmly and thoroughly, as Karen stormed out of the office behind Officer Ray. Later that night, at home, the smell of stew filled the kitchen. My mom and I didn't talk about what happened. We didn't have to. I sat in my room, staring at the half-finished homework I'd meant to turn in that morning, before everything changed. And instead of pushing it aside, I picked it up and kept working. Not because I had to, but because I wasn't going to let Karen define the rest of my story. The school board meeting was scheduled just 48 hours after the slap, and somehow, it felt like the entire school was holding its breath. Even though the session was closed to the public, everyone knew what it was about. Students whispered in the halls, teachers exchanged glances behind classroom doors, and parents speculated online. It wasn't just about what Karen had done anymore, it had become a symbol of accountability, of privilege crashing headfirst into consequences. That morning, I sat in English class trying to focus on a grammar quiz, but every question blurred into the same thought: what if this changes nothing? I could feel the attention on me. No one said anything, not directly. But the glances, the tension in the air. I could feel it like static. And I couldn't blame them. I probably would have stared too. Still, I finished the quiz. Turned it in without a word. I didn't know what was going to happen at that meeting. But I knew one thing: I wasn't going to hide. Across town, the district boardroom filled slowly. Suits. Clipboards. Tense faces. At the head sat Superintendent Carson, a man who looked like he could calm a riot with a glance. Next to him, the district legal advisor, jaw clenched, tablet in hand. Karen arrived early. Of course she did. She was dressed for battle, navy blazer, a silk scarf knotted tightly around her neck, and the same sour expression I remembered from the hallway. Her husband was with her, along with a lawyer who looked like he charged by the eyebrow raise. They sat stiffly, and when my mom walked in, Karen's spine went ramrod straight. "But Mom?" She didn't flinch. She walked in with a binder and a USB drive, nodded at the board, and sat down at the far end of the table. I wasn't there. She had told me to stay home, and this time, I didn't argue. It was her turn now. The superintendent opened the meeting with the usual formality. Then Karen's lawyer took the floor. His speech was everything I expected: long, dramatic, full of fake concern. He called Karen a protective mother, blamed the school's overcrowding, claimed she had been emotionally overwhelmed. I heard later he even used the phrase startled instinct. Karen dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. I don't know if she squeezed out actual tears, but I doubt it. When he finished, the room fell silent. It was like the board had collectively paused to let her version of the story settle, just long enough to let it crumble. Then my mom stood. She didn't argue. She didn't posture. She just plugged in the USB and played the footage. There I was, brushing past Karen. Her turning. Her slap. Caught from 3 different angles. The audio clear. Her voice sharp. Her accusation brutal. The collective gasp in the room, I was told, was almost identical to the one in the hallway that day. Then came the phone footage. The rant. Her screaming about brats and discipline. Her finger jabbing through the air like a sword. My mom followed that with 3 witness statements. All from people who had nothing to gain: a teacher, a parent, a student. All saying the same thing: I did nothing wrong. Karen had lashed out. Then, she calmly read excerpts from Karen's meltdown in the counselor's office. Her threats. Her contradictions. Her attempts to rewrite the story. And finally, Mom reviewed the district's policies: adult behavior on campus, student protection, non-staff conduct. Each one violated. Clearly. Then she sat back. No commentary. No emotion. Just the truth. The silence that followed was deafening. Karen's lawyer tried to object, something about context and emotional state. But the room had already shifted. Superintendent Carson leaned forward, hands clasped, and looked Karen straight in the eye. "Mrs. Harrington, do you deny that you struck a student in the hallway?" Karen's mouth twitched. I was startled. "He ran into me. I reacted." Carson's voice didn't change. "Do you deny that you responded physically, and that you escalated without informing any staff?" She hesitated. "These kids, they think they can just..." He cut her off, calm and final. "Your actions were recorded by 4 security cameras and at least 3 student devices. We have over a dozen witness statements. This meeting isn't about who was right. It's about consequences." Karen's husband leaned in, whispered something. Her lawyer asked for a delay in disciplinary action, pending civil review. But Carson shook his head. "You are free to pursue legal action at your own discretion," he said. "However, the district has reached its decision." And then, he delivered it. Karen Harrington, permanently banned from all district campuses. Findings forwarded to law enforcement. Possible misdemeanor assault charges. A formal statement clearing Principal Davis of wrongdoing. Karen tried to protest. But her husband placed a hand on her wrist. This time, no one stood up for her. No one spoke on her behalf. No one came to rescue her narrative. And for the first time since all this began, the silence was hers. The days that followed felt like coming up for air after being held under too long. There weren't any grand announcements or big public scenes, just a shift. A quiet kind of closure that slowly settled over the school like dust finally falling after a storm. Karen was gone. That part was official. Her name became something students whispered in passing, a cautionary tale rather than a headline. There was no celebration, no victory parade. Just relief. And silence. But inside, I didn't feel triumphant. I wasn't proud of what happened. How could I be? I didn't win anything. I just survived something I never should have had to experience in the first place. I sat on the back steps of the science building during lunch that week, the sun warming my shoulders while I scrolled through my phone. A few more headlines popped up, local news blurbs about the incident, confirmation of the charges, and a short district statement reaffirming the school's commitment to students' safety. I didn't read the comments. I didn't need to. That moment was behind me. But the sting, the emotional kind, still lingered in quiet moments when the noise faded. Isla joined me without saying a word. She always did that, just showed up when silence was better than questions. She offered me half of her granola bar, like it was our thing now. I took it, and for the first time in days, the corner of my mouth actually twitched into something like a smile. We sat there, side by side, while the world moved on around us, the sounds of the soccer field in the distance, birds in the trees, lockers clanging shut in the halls. After a while, she spoke. "You know the way your mom handled that whole thing? It was kind of badass." I let out a breath of a laugh. "Yeah. She doesn't mess around. If I ever screw up, remind me not to do it in front of her." I smiled, genuinely this time. Back inside, my mom, Principal Davis, was back in full gear. Answering emails. Hosting staff meetings. Getting the school back into rhythm like nothing ever happened. But I knew better. I knew it had changed her, even if no one else could see it. She never let it show, but I saw the new tension in her shoulders. The sharper focus in her voice. She'd built this school to be a safe space, for kids like me, for everyone, and seeing that shattered, even briefly, had lit something deeper in her. A quiet fire. And despite everything, she wasn't broken. She was sharper. More determined. And now, I understood that fire, because it lived in me too. Later that day, I waited outside her office after school. She stepped out, surprise flickering across her face when she saw me there. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just thought I'd walk home with you today." She smiled. It was small but warm. "That'd be nice." We walked together through the now quiet halls, past the lockers and posters, past the spot where everything had happened. It looked normal now, like any other stretch of tile. But I still glanced at it, just for a second, and then kept moving. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, casting long golden streaks across the sidewalk. The wind rustled the leaves overhead, and for the first time all week, the silence between us wasn't heavy. It was peaceful. After a few blocks, I asked, "Do you think people like her ever change?" Mom thought about it for a long moment. "Sometimes," she said, "if they really want to. But people like that usually don't think they're the problem. And that makes change rare." I nodded. That felt true. Sad but true. "It still feels weird," I admitted. "Like it all happened to someone else." She stopped and looked at me, really looked at me. "I wish I could have shielded you from it," she said. "But I'm proud of how you handled it. You didn't let her define you." We turned the corner onto our street just as a group of elementary kids ran past us, chasing each other and laughing like the world had never gone dark for them. Watching them made me realize something. Innocence is fragile. But resilience, that's something you build. "Thanks," I said. "Not just for being my mom, for being the principal too." She gave me a sideways glance. "Are you complimenting me? Don't get used to it," I muttered, grinning. She laughed. And I did too. It wasn't forced. It wasn't careful. It was real. That night, we had dinner, just stew and bread, but it felt like a reset. A reminder that no matter how chaotic things get, normal can still exist. That the world keeps turning. Later, I finished the assignment I was supposed to deliver before the slap. Not because it was due, but because I wanted to. Because I was still me. Still a student. Still moving forward. And in that moment, sitting at my desk with headphones on, I finally understood. What happened to me will always be part of my story. But it will never be the whole story.